Good morning. This is Melissa Schwartz, the managing broker at the Realty One Group in Paradise Valley. It is a Tuesday morning, which means it is time for Tuesday training and tactics. And let me share my screen here with you. Let's see. Hopefully that's the right one. Should be able to get over to the slideshow. So what are we going to do today? I have had all sorts of questions regarding different files and how to process files. So today I'm going to go over a lot of different scenarios with you on what files you may need and how to find what you're looking for. So let's start though with initial meetings with clients, because you know what, we all start out, or most of us start out trying to figure out our files by figuring out what we're going to do next. Are we meeting with a buyer? Are we meeting with a seller? Are we potentially doing a rental for somebody, right? That's how we determine what we're looking at. And so let's start with those initial consultations, because with your seller, you're immediately trying to figure out both about your seller, what they're looking for, and also what is the property? What are the CMAs? What do you need to know about this property? And we just had, I just got a call about one of our agents that took a listing and all of a sudden found out that the property's in an LLC. Well, who's on the LLC, right? Who's supposed to sign for that? So one of the first places you start on a seller consultation is the tax records, whether that's Monsoon or CurbView, but we're going to look to see who is the actual owner, right? And oh, by the way, is there one or two or three or four? Because if there's more than one owner, who has to sign? All of them. Well, not necessarily. If it's an LLC, do they all have to sign?
Yeah.
Because an LLC may have the managing member, or there may be a manager. They may be able to sign on behalf of everybody and sell a piece of property, which you won't know if you aren't looking at those tax records to find out. Now, the biggest one we've seen over the last year is someone that came into me and said, oh yeah, this is in a trust. It's in a trust. I know it's in a trust. I've seen the trust. Yeah, well, go look at those tax records, because people take things in and out of their trust. So this woman had apparently taken it out of the trust to refinance or get a little loan or something like that. And guess what? She didn't put it back in the trust. And then she passed away, and everybody in her family is like, oh, it's in the trust. It's in the trust. Nope, not in the trust. So guess what? You got a 6-month delay for probate because they had to run it through probate. So agents, you need to start with the tax records. Before you take a listing, you need to know who is the owner of that property. All right. Then how many of you have seen our listing or our buyer presentations on the one zone or Realty One? You can go look up our presentations. Under branding, we have both a listing and a buyer presentation. This is to supplement the paperwork you're doing, but it gives you something that's very snazzy. It's digital. You can email it if you want. It gives you a lot of the background on Realty One Group. I'm not going to show pretty pictures here. I'm going through a lot of stuff going on. And again, how to tie these things together. So listing documents. This has got to be the most confusing to me to try and teach, because I wish we could say, for listing documents, you go to one place, but that is not true. You go to multiple places because you have to go get things from different places. So we started with the tax records. For agents, we pull those tax records through ARMLS. We go into ARMLS and then go into Monsoon or CurbView. That's where we go. Most of you don't end up going to the Maricopa County records, although I highly recommend it. If you have some question on the footprint of the building, was there a room added? Under the county records, you can click on certain things in there and you can actually get a basic outline of the building. And so of the structure itself. Now, that's not you're not going to get all the measurements of the interior rooms, but you're going to get a basic idea if a carport was originally there that they may have enclosed, and you're wondering why, you know, they say added 234 square feet. It's because they enclosed a carport or a patio, and made it a part of the livable square footage. But SkySlope forms or transaction desk, whichever you prefer, they both work, right? They pull your AAR forms. That's where you're going to get any forms from AAR. And actually, I didn't put down here, of course, you need our working documents because you need our ABA. So that's outside of those that are, I've already listed here. Breeze, when do you use Breeze? Have you used Breeze?
I love Breeze. I use
Okay.
it for my spuds.
So I've got one agent here in front of me that's used it and one that's never seen it. So the seller property disclosure statement is finally available. So your sellers can fill it in online. But guess what? It means they have to do the whole document, and they don't like that.
That's not true. They can save it and go back to it.
Oh, they can, but in order to finish it, they have to answer all the questions.
Right.
And how many times have you seen seller property disclosures where they don't answer yes or no? They just leave it blank. So on Breeze, they actually have to answer yes or no. And then it asks them, well, it asks them to upload warranties. So what I always like to do with my clients is I give them the seller property disclosure in hand as a part of my listing presentation. I give that to them and say, look, take notes on this. Go through this quickly and just make a few extra, notes in terms of things that you've repaired. If you need to go look up something, go grab those documents. If it's on your computer, know where you're going to grab them from the computer. Because when you're in Breeze, if you have, let's say, a termite warranty or an air conditioning warranty, it will ask you to upload it. And it all becomes a part of the seller property disclosure statement delivered to the buyer.
And it's readable.
And it's readable because you can actually read the handwriting because it's typed in there. No agents, you cannot fill it out. It is not for you. It is sent to your clients, and then it comes back to you, and you need to upload it into a signing program for them to then execute it. And I have no clue if this is true, or I'm just going to make a guess that the reason it doesn't auto sign after that is to prevent agents from actually doing it as a one-stop shop and filling it out and getting it signed, because it does then have to go to your client and have that client signature on it. So now you can have multiple people that'll fill it out, and it comes back to you and becomes, I believe, one document because it all comes back together. So that's the Breeze is great. It does have lead-based paint there. It also has the HOA addendum. So folks, you can send that over and have them start to fill those out. I don't know whether it allows them, it's got to allow them to skip some, because some of those questions they can't answer on HOA. There is no unknown or not applicable on some of those. So I haven't tried the HOA addendum. I usually try to have that conversation carefully with my sellers, because oftentimes sellers just go, oh yeah, we have a monthly fee. Yeah, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you to call the HOA to find out about transaction fee, disclosure fee, cap improvement fee, right? All these other things that the seller doesn't remember from when they purchased the property, right? But if you don't have that conversation with your client, they're not going to make that phone call. They're just going to fill in a few lines and hand it back to you. That could be very costly to them. And so if you have the conversation with them and you go to page 3 and say, most likely page 3 is going to come back with this line, and I think it's 75, that says, checkbox that says the seller is responsible for omitting or providing any information on page 1. So if they don't make that phone call, they are going to have to pay for costs that the buyer might have paid for, but didn't know about. So usually the seller will make the phone call after you have that conversation. All right, let's look at this. Marketing, right? Seller consultation, you're doing those first steps, then you're getting the contract, right? You're getting the listing. Now you've got to do all of your marketing prep, right? Your photos, your videos, your staging. That's the next step to get that rocking and rolling. And then now let's talk about this. You've taken an ER, you've taken a listing contract. How soon does that need to go into SkySlope? Anybody online? You can unmute here, folks online. Got you all hidden there somehow, but you can unmute. Uh-oh, do I not have my sound up? Hold on. I don't know how to move that. Ooh, I can't do that. Ah. Hold on one second. Let me escape here. No, I've got sound up. Anybody online want to comment? You're all being quiet. How quickly do you need to put an ER into SkySlope? Whoops, where am I? Anybody know?
72 hours.
Thank you, ma'am. 72 hours. So let me go back to that. So you may get an ER in January and not plan on listing that till May. When does it go into SkySlope? January. If you get a seller's signature and you sign a document in January, you have to put that into SkySlope within 72 hours. And that is because of state rules that require the broker has to have reviewed it within 1 week. So we have a policy of you getting to us within 72 hours. So we have time to review it and make sure that it is all good to go. And again, it doesn't matter if the property is not going on the market until a month later or 2 months later. It's when that document gets signed. So, and again, you can go to coming soon, which is fine, but you can only be in coming soon for 30 days. I don't know how many of you use the transaction desk or SkySlope forms input form. The ARMLS input form is one that I actually do in ARMLS and then print out the data form for my clients to review and edit, and then I'll go back in there and edit it. Why do you think I do that? You have any guesses?
I don't know what the guess would be. I just do it and. So I don't know what the.
If I start from SkySlope forms, what am I starting from? If I'm starting on my data entry form in SkySlope, what am I starting from?
You're starting from stuff.
You're starting from an absolutely blank page, right? I've got to enter every last detail about that property. If you start in ARMLS, you can copy the last listing. Now, I'd go through because depending on how old that listing is, there are a lot of things that won't be there. I don't want you to do the input, but go through and make sure that some of the data there is accurate. And some of the basic information, like, is it a attached or detached single family home? So those things can be modified. But if you go into ARMLS and copy a previous listing, you can't copy the photographs, folks, and you don't want them anyway. You don't want somebody else's, but you can copy that data, then have that form for your listing presentation or your meeting where you're signing documents. At least get them before that, actually, before you're signing, get them to edit that. Bring that back, put it back into your My Incomplete, right? Under ARMLS, there's My Incomplete. I'll go show you these in a little bit, but My Incomplete, and you can edit it there. Then when you're ready to go live, you're ready. You don't have to then take a 6 or 7 page document and meticulously fill in all that detail into ARMLS. You have it and it's ready to go. All right, let's talk about buyer consultation. So, oops, I don't know how that ended up down there below. I don't think that was supposed to be the first one. So let's talk about the buyer presentation. How many of you attended our Rock Title Overview last Thursday on the buyer presentation? I hope some of you attended. I know I've got a lot of people online. I was there. Justin was there. We have a copy of that. You'll see it. Actually, I'm going to put it on our Wednesday newsletter. I'm going to add a link to that video. If you did not get a chance to view that buyer presentation, it gives you some nice tips and tricks on how to edit that presentation. But just like our listing presentation, we now have a buyer presentation. So if you are going to meet with a buyer and talk about your value, you can present that as a part of your presentation, okay? Well, then you have your buyer intake. How many of you have an intake form? Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
I have a form that they fill out and give me all the information of what they're looking for, and even some of their personal information.
So one of the agents here, if you didn't hear that, has a form that the client fills out to give what they're looking for.
And I have it digital so that I can read it.
Okay, and so she has a digital version. How many do you have? You don't? So, and you can do this with sellers as well, except that it's a little different because the seller isn't really looking for anything there. More if you would want the seller, if they're moving out of state and you're wanting to connect them to somebody else, you would kind of want some of that same information to do a referral to somebody else. But the intake form basically is a form that has the buyer's names, like both names, and what are their full legal names. So when you get ready to write a contract, you actually know whose names you're writing down there, and you don't miss the junior or the middle name or middle initial. And by the way, if you have clients with the name of John Smith, you really do want middle names, middle initials, because otherwise when they go to sell, or their property can get hit with a lot of liens for some other John Smith, and they have to prove that it's not them. So if you have somebody with a very common name, try to get them to make it as unique as possible if they can. But the intake form will usually have the size of the home, the location, what type of must-haves do they need, right? Is a pool a must-have or is it just a want? Is the fireplace a must-have? Gotta love that in Arizona, right? I had folks move here from Connecticut and they had to have a fireplace. And I remember that first Christmas after they moved in, they had the air conditioning blaring because they had to have that fireplace going because it wasn't the holidays without a fireplace. I was like, okay. So, you have to know what your client's looking for. And the best way to do that is to have something that is going to give you all that detail the same for every client, so you can set up the search specific for them. Then you're going to get into buyer disclosures. This is a part of your presentation, folks. Your buyer disclosures need to be given up front. That ready form, which is the agency form, right, says that before you enter into a discussion, you are going to explain your agency. So really that should be up front. What does ABA stand for? Guys, online, somebody open up. I've got a couple of people here, but would love to hear from somebody online. I'm going to start to tag you and see who all's online here. Oops.
Affiliated business, and I can't remember the other one. Agreement.
Agreement. Yes, ma'am. Okay. So, and then the buyer advisory. And then does anybody know what BBEEA is? We're going to start seeing that one come up.
What did you say?
BBEEA. Any guesses?
I don't know all those acronyms.
Buyer broker exclusive agreement.
Exclusive employment agreement.
Employment agreement.
Yes, he cheated. So that is a new acronym we are going to start to see instead of just the buyer broker agreement, because there is one that is not exclusive, right? So the BBEEA is the exclusive employment agreement. It means you're getting married to that person, right? That we're going to start seeing wedding bell or wedding charms and stuff on things. I saw a version of this in my training yesterday from the AAR attorney, and he put little wedding rings around the box that said BBEEA. All right, let's see, go on to the next one. Oops, I'm not on my page. Ooh, I don't know where that disappeared to. Okay, set up searches. So when you have the personal intake forms, you're going to set up your searches. For those that are not aware, we have The OneSuite, which allows you to do searches for your clients through the OneSuite, ties it back to your CRM. The One App ties to that as well. Please, there was training yesterday from Rock Title on that. There is video training if you don't want to attend the Zoom. That Zoom probably won't be for another 2 weeks or so. But every Monday, they do talk about the OneSuite and different features in the OneSuite. ARMLS is where a lot of us do searches. I know RPR is trying to get us to do searches there. There's lots of opportunity out there. All right. Now, I'm going to speed this up, of course, because we're talking about what you're doing with documents. So let's say you find a home, you make an offer, you negotiate, then you're under contract. Now what happens next? How soon do you have to open that into SkySlope if you have a signed purchase contract or lease?
Is it 72 hours?
72 hours needs to be in SkySlope. Any
Don't ask me why I know that.
that's a good thing to know. And I know my BBEEA disappeared. I don't know why that line disappeared, but soon when you sign those, my guess is very soon we will have the ability for you to enter those in. Right now, our SkySlope system is based on addresses. So it's really hard to enter a buyer broker agreement because there is no address yet, right? You are working with the buyer, you don't have a property yet. They're working with SkySlope to modify that. I have not heard what's happening with it, but I imagine by August 1st, we will have a way for you to enter into your buyer broker agreements, which will go on file because you've signed an agreement. And so within 72 hours of creating those are going to have to go in. Now that is not yet. So don't call me tomorrow and say, where do I put this? It's not set up yet that way, but it will be coming soon. So SkySlope, and then you need to open escrow. Somebody asked me the other day, well, who is responsible for getting escrow opened? Well, the buyer is, of course, but if you represent the buyer, who's responsible for telling the buyer that they need to open escrow, and what does that mean? Now, some escrow companies do have the ability for buyers to use a text, a way to send via text. Some allow you to write a check and scan that in to the title company's bank. It goes in and scans in so they don't have to deliver it. Most title companies will offer a pickup service to go pick up that check from somebody's work. I know millennials, you don't have checks. I get that. So millennials do then need to go to a bank and either get a cashier's check, or if they actually have a checking account with no checks, which is possible, they can get a desk check. I don't know. Can you get a desk check off of a savings account? Is that possible? I don't know if that's possible. But you would have to go into a bank and do that, or they can wire the funds in, just takes a little delay, and they need to get the wiring instructions. Who do they get the wiring instructions from? I want the Jeopardy theme music here. Title company.
Title.
Do you ever provide wiring instructions? That answer should be a huge NO. Why? Why would you not provide wiring instructions? What is the #1 issue happening right now? Well, except I guess.
There's too much wire fraud.
Wire fraud.
Huge liability.
Wire fraud. So if they ever think that you are going to provide them wiring instructions and they get a scam email that has your name on it, and they go, oh, wasn't that nice of Melissa to send to me? Oh, let me wire my money over here. Guess who's going to be liable for that money, by the way? And no joke, courts have now decided that realtors can be responsible for those funds if they had any part of providing that misinformation. So under all circumstances, the answer is, I will never provide you wiring instructions. You must get that information from the title company. If you ever get an email from me that says, here's your wiring instructions, do not have anything to do with that. Pick up a phone and call me and tell me you received that. but please do not do anything with that. This is working through courts, but there has been a situation where a realtor was held liable for that. So please, 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 this is not a joke. You should always tell your client you have nothing to do with wiring instructions. All right. So want to get escrow opened. You want to make sure that they get their money into escrow, and that what else does title need to open escrow? They can't just get a check. What do they need? Everybody's quiet today. They need the contract. They can't open escrow without a contract. So if you are the buyer's agent, when you go into SkySlope, if you can actually click on there to say open escrow, and it will submit, and it's not just to Rock. I believe you can choose the title company, and it will send over the contract. Now, what are documents you won't send to title at any point? Just, and this is jumping ahead, but what are documents that don't go to title? Not when you're opening, but in the processing. Anybody remember what does not go to title? Oh my gosh, folks. Your Binzer does not go to title, right? Because if the Binzer goes to title, then the Binzer goes to the lender, because anything the title gets, they have to distribute to all parties, including the lender. So please, Binzer never goes to title, does not go to the lender. But initially, you need to send the contract. You need to send the HOA. You need to send if there's a wastewater, they need to have all of that. They should probably have your wire fraud notice that the buyer got your wire fraud and signed off on that. You should receive from the seller within 3 days, seller property disclosure statement. If it was online, that's great. But if you're the listing agent, please know that having it posted online does not equal delivery. You must deliver the seller property disclosure statement to the other party within the 3 days. So please make sure once you go under contract, you still send that out, okay? Insurance history, how many days does the seller have to provide the insurance history of the property? It's not 3 days. How many days is it?
I didn't listen. I didn't listen.
How many days to provide the insurance history?
See, I don't know, because I get all that up front. That was. and
No, the
contract.
buyer, how many
So
days
How many days for the buyer?
does the
insurance
buyer,
history?
does the buyer have until the seller is supposed to deliver the insurance history? I get you're getting it up front.
Yeah, I would think 3 days.
It's 5 days for the insurance history. The seller property disclosure is 3 days. Now, what do you notice about the words insurance history? What is missing from those two words? What is not on that line? I've used the words insurance history. What do a lot of people call that?
Clue.
Clue report. If anyone on this is still calling it a clue report, please take that and throw that out of your vocabulary. That is a specific report. It's kind of like Kleenex versus a tissue. It is the Comprehensive Loss Underwriting Exchange. It is an actual company that you go to and get a report, but it costs money. So you are not obligated to provide a clue report. You're only obligated to provide the insurance history, which goes back 5 years. Okay, if the person's lived there 20 years, they do not have to provide a 20-year history. They only have to provide a 5-year history. Now, what happens if they say it's an estate, and the daughter is like, I can't figure out what insurance company, and I don't know. I know that she's not made any, my parents didn't make any claims, blah, blah, blah. What else can be given if you don't actually have the insurance history from an insurance company? It's in the contract. Your seller can actually sign notice that says, I swear I've had no insurance claims. I have not had any claims for the last 5 years.
What do you do if the owner was deceased and it's a relative that,
If they don't know, then they need to search and get the insurance history. If they do know, say, I know they've made no claims because I helped them manage their books and I know there was no coordination to do any repairs and there was no damage, right? Then that relative can write that. But if they truly have no idea, they're flying in from out of state, they don't know anything about the house, then you need to try and find that insurance history. And they need to figure out who the home's insured right now. They can
Yeah.
figure out who the insurance company is. The problem is if they've only had that company for 2 years, they may not be able to find who was the previous one. So in that case, you probably have to send something saying, this is the information I have. I do not have any other further information. Please do your research. That's all they can provide. They can't provide something they truly don't have. But they do need to make an effort. That's in terms of an estate. Seller's not able to get away with that one. All right. So let's talk about SkySlope. I want to make sure this is how I've been trying to train new agents because I find it very confusing when I get phone calls and somebody says, I'm stuck on SkySlope. It's not working. And I'm like, okay, which SkySlope are you talking about? Because we have SkySlope and we have SkySlope forms. SkySlope is what Realty One Group uses as a file cabinet. It's a big file cabinet. When you have a new listing, you create a file folder specific for that listing. The cool thing is you put that into SkySlope, I can see it, compliance can see it, the admins can see it. Even Kathy in another office as the managing broker can see your file if they want to or need to go into that file, okay? So it's really important you understand it's like a file cabinet. When you get a purchase contract, you open up a new file folder and everything goes in there, right? That's why compliance can see it and check off whether or not those documents are correct. And for those that don't know, we have associate brokers are our compliance officers. They're the ones reviewing those. I would love to be reviewing your documents all the time. I review them when there's an issue and they say broker review required. That comes to me. Otherwise, thank goodness we have compliance that goes through all of your regular documents. They look to see if you've got matching dates, if you've got names and signatures and check boxes where they need to be. That is not me. That's somebody else. So really, really appreciate and thank them. I know they're a pain in your side. I get it. But they serve a really important purpose to get those files up to date and corrected. Our admins here open up those files in SkySlope. When you put a CDI in, and by the way, make sure you put CDIs into SkySlope because our admins review those. They're reviewing them for so many different things, folks. They're reviewing them that your name is correct, that if you have a mentee fee or a transaction fee or a deferred fee, that all that information is in there. Maybe something's being garnished. Those garnishments pop up and we have to take care of those through our office. And I am not the one that has time to go through and look through literally like 7 different spreadsheets. So our admins do that. Great thanks to both Kat and Heather for all their work on doing those. And that's why you get notices back from them saying, hey, you need to fix something. When those come to me, I will sign them, but they have to come from admin. I will not sign any CDIs that are sent to me separately. Because of that, there's so many things that have to be checked. If you have a referral, however, you can send that to me directly. Please make sure it is on a digital signing program for me to sign. I actually do not have a signing program on my computer. Do not understand why I do not have access to that, but it is not on my system. So I have to then send it to admin to send to me for signature. So going back to the file cabinet for SkySlope, that's where all your documents go. Not SkySlope forms. That's the match for transaction desk. So let's talk about file setup. All of you should know we have a new document checklist. Can anybody tell me where the new document checklist is located if you needed to find it? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? It's a really cool form. You'll see it in a second. I have to get through this page. I'm trying to get through quickly. Does everybody know what a new document checklist is? Folks online, hopefully. Okay. New document checklist.
Yes. When did the new one come out?
No, it's the same new document checklist. It just
I'm
means
trying to make sure that I know.
so unfortunately, they changed what the front of SkySlope looks like. You guys have a new SkySlope front page. My page does
Yeah,
not.
that threw me off.
So if you're trying to find the working documents, you have to go under the word more. It's over to the side, is more. Then you go to Office Docs, Paradise Valley Docs, then Working Docs. Actually, I think it's Paradise Valley folder, and then Working Docs. That's how you find the new document checklist. So here are some of the categories on the new document checklist, right? Traditional listing, traditional purchase. Short sale listing, short sale purchase. REO listing, REO purchase. New construction, lease listing and lease. And then the final one is commercial. I'm not going to put that on here. So this is what I'm talking about. Now, why is this important for you to see? I'm going to put this down here. Sorry. That really small. So why is that important for you to see? Because this checklist is what works in SkySlope. When you select what type of transaction you're doing, it pulls directly from this checklist. So if you say you're doing a traditional listing, it's going to create on the side that all of these documents are required. See the little red check marks? All of those are then going to show they're required. Owner agent addendum to the purchase contract will be optional because it may or may not apply. But guess what? Purchase contract is going to apply, right? So same thing on these other ones. You go into a traditional and type your checklist type when you're creating your SkySlope account for that file. You will end up getting these things that will pop up. All those red check boxes are going to pop up. Look at this. Short sale listing has all these documents. This is under working documents under SkySlope. Go to more. And I'm going to show you the bottom half of this. You can't see the top anymore, but you can see all the red check marks are required. The green is if applicable, right? So you're going to have a purchase contract, a pre-qual, loan status update. By the way, that needs to be signed. We need one signed, folks. Earnest money receipt, the BINSR. If you do not have a BINSR, if the buyer did not send in the BINSR and you represent the seller, you can take a sheet of paper, you can type on a sheet of paper, buyer did not return in the 5, 7, 10-day inspection period, no BINSR was returned. And that's all you need to put in there. Because if the buyer didn't send anything in, they're moving forward automatically, right? If the seller doesn't respond to the buyer inspection notice and then the buyer doesn't respond, the buyer's moving forward, right? Seller's not making any repairs, but buyer's moving forward. So an inaction creates an action, but we still have that box checked, which means something needs to be in that thing. Literally, you have to upload a piece of paper. You cannot type on the line and say, oh, buyer didn't respond. You have to upload a sheet of paper with that typed out or handwritten out. Just scan it in and put it in there. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go to compensation forms real quickly. Because this has become, oh, these are the new compensation forms. Ooh, this is a treat, folks. So we've got new acronyms. I got trained on this yesterday, so I thought I'd throw this in here and then I'll get to flipping up some of these documents so you can kind of see where things are. So I already cheated on this earlier. BBEEA is the Buyer Broker Exclusive Employment Agreement. And then we have the EREA, which is the, what are those? Anybody want to say? Anybody want to say what the ER and EA is? So ER is the exclusive right to sell. EA is the exclusive agency. CABB, anybody want to take a guess at what that is? These are all areas where you can see compensation. So what do you think C stands for? Compensation. Compensation agreement between brokers is one of the new forms. And SCA is another new form, and that is the seller compensation agreement. That is when it is not going through the broker, but the seller is paying the buyer's agent directly, not through the listing agent. So right now, folks, if you are adding language to your purchase contract and you are trying to talk about the buyer broker commission, please use the word compensation when you are talking about an agent, paying an agent. Use the word compensation instead of commission. That is how it's been changed in all of our documents. So get used to that change in language. Okay, SkySlope checklist type, choosing the right type. I'm going to give you a little treat here. This is one of our forms that we use when we're trying to figure out which type of checklist you are needing in SkySlope. If you represent the seller and you are taking a traditional listing, and then a buyer comes in and purchases that property, you do not represent the buyer, you only represent the seller, then it goes to residential traditional listing sold. If you are the buyer, or if you are the seller and you're going to represent the buyer on that same listing, then you use residential traditional, not listing sold. If you are doing buyer new construction, doing a purchase, you would start a new transaction file, which is residential new construction. As far as I know, none of you are representing builders, although we have had that in the past. That is where they would use the seller new construction. Most of you would be doing buyer as a buyer new construction, not representing the seller. All right, rental, same type of thing. Depending on who you represent, depends on which checklist type you pick up. So if you are representing the landlord, you do the residential, you do the lease landlord, and then you convert it to residential lease listing leased. Okay. All right. I'm going to get out of here for a quick second. I still have a few minutes, so I'm going to stop doing that. Oops. Hold on. Oh, maybe I need to share again and just go back to that screen. I just need to move this out of the way. Oh. There we go. All right, so let's go in here and I'm going to go into the one login and show you this just a bit. Unfortunately, as I said, our SkySlope did not change. So this is not what your SkySlope looks like. I'm sorry for that. I don't know why ours hasn't changed. Yours is blue and not gold right now. And it's all on the bottom and you have to go click on more. Wow, how did I get there? It's not even where I would normally start. But I don't even know how it started there. So under Office Docs, you will only see Paradise Valley. I have access to everybody's company docs. So here, that is not what I wanted to do. Move this out of the way. Okay. So here are your working documents. They're again under SkySlope. You will see the new CDI form, right? You'll see your affiliate business arrangement that is fillable. You'll see your rental CDI. If you ever need your E&O insurance, there's your certificate. You're coming soon. If you are taking a listing and it is not going into the MLS immediately, you probably need to do this coming soon document, even if you're not doing coming soon. Just take a look at that. All right, we're going to go to page 2 here real quick, and you will see this new document checklist, right? This is what I was talking about earlier. You saw I broke it into pieces so it was easier to see. This is going to come up as the whole document. I don't know if it's going to be large or not. So there's your new document checklist. You can see, like I showed you earlier, right? This is something if you are loading in a new client, a buyer or a seller or a tenant, and you don't know what documents you need, this is where you should be starting.
How did you get to that?
Okay, so this is in SkySlope. It is in our working documents. Unfortunately, I can't show you the blue screen.
I don't even have anything that says working document.
Go to more. Go to more on the bottom of your screen.
Turn on more.
Can you turn yours around?
I'm probably not the right place.
Yes, you are in the right
Okay,
place.
that's fine.
See the word more right here?
Oh, that's not in the bottom of the screen. I was looking at.
No,
before.
there's more. It's on the bottom corner of the screen. You'll see view transactions, view listing, and the word more.
It's-
If you click
right.
on that, you will then see
I'm looking at the bottom. one.
a place that says working documents.
Yeah.
And yeah. And under working documents, you then will have stuff either across the top that you have to go to office documents. And then you will see on the left-hand side, you're not going to see the whole list. You're only going to see the folder for Paradise Valley, but you have to open that folder to get our documents. Everybody online follow that? I'm sorry, I don't have the way to show that to
Where
you.
is that list for?
Okay. Oh, go to the second page. So once you're on the working documents page, section, there are four pages here. You want to go to the second page and you're going to find it's the fifth document now down is the new document checklist. Okay. Actually this clear cooperation may be the one. Let's see if this has both of them on here. So clear cooperation instead of coming soon is the one you want. If for some reason you have a listing that is maybe not going on the MLS immediately, but you're going to make some phone calls to your sphere that you have a new listing, you would need to do this office exclusive and clear cooperation. Again, these are all in your working documents. There are 4 pages of documents. This is where the pre and post possessions are. And if you've never seen that there's a checklist for that, you need to open that checklist as well. So there are a lot of different things on here. If you are being asked to put a document delay in because you did not get your file in within 72 hours, if you go to the third page here, about halfway down the page, you will see this document delay explanation. You can actually type on this so I can read it. And you can type this in to explain why you did not get the documents in there. Now, if this is going to open, well, that's odd. And you then would print that out, sign it, and upload it. I'm not quite sure why that did not open. Let me try again. Let's just go to this. Very unusual. Not sure why everything else is working but that one. Well, it's a fillable form, so you can go in there, you put your name, the address. Oh, there we go. So it's all fillable. So it's much easier to do it this way. And what you need to understand is the reason we have this document delay explanation in here is if that file is audited, it tells the Department of Real Estate that you knew you made a mistake and what you're doing to correct that mistake. So steps taken to ensure compliance in the future. Hopefully you're saying something like, if I'm going out of town, I'm having somebody else, handle my files, or I will just do a better job knowing that once I open up a file, once I get something under contract, I need to load that within 72 hours. I didn't know that. Okay. But you can't write that you didn't know the 72-hour rule applied on 16 of these folks. If the department starts to see that, they're going to start pulling your files. So please, please don't do that. I mean, you all should know it's 72 hours. So let me stop right here. Let me ask if anybody has any questions. I know I've got a lot of people still online. Whoops, wherever you went to. Let me stop sharing that. Why it says that. All right, I've got a bunch of people online here. Anyone else want to ask any questions? We've got just 10 minutes. I will go show you things if there's something else you'd like to see. Anybody else? Questions here? I know I ran through a lot of forms, but I get a lot of questions about what document do I need? Well, here you go. You can find out every document you need. Now, that new document checklist will be getting updated in the next 2 months, next month, to be ready for that August 1st. I don't know how they're going to fit it on that page because it all doesn't fit on one page now. So yeah, go ahead.
So one question, so I have a terrific TC who basically handles most of that. What is the role of a TC, or how do you see that? It's taking away a lot of these headaches.
Well, the question was, how do I see the role of a TC, and they take away a lot of these headaches. You're right, they can take away the headaches, but if they make a mistake, who's responsible?
Yep.
Who's responsible?
I wrote it.
No,
I'm thinking,
you are, right? So if you don't know the processing and you don't know the timelines, then you're the one that's responsible for that. If your TC falls behind or is not able to get something out in time, ultimately it falls on you. So please be aware of that. And we have some excellent TCs. That's awesome. I will tell you, any new agents I have come in, I require that for their mentee deals, they are their own TC, because to me, the only way to learn the file and the pacing of the file and the structure of the file and the do's and don'ts, what needs to be done when and how it all interrelates, is through the transaction coordination, is understanding that Binzer needs to be sent in. It's got to be replied on the specific date. I actually got a call this morning that somebody had posted on the real estate forum that they had missed their 10-day deadline, and they were looking for advice. The person that called me thought it was one of our agents. Thankfully, it was not. But please don't post when you make a mistake. Do not post on a public forum you made a mistake, because if you don't think the other side might see that, yeah, a lot of people do read that forum, and a lot of people don't comment, but a lot more people read that forum than comment on that forum. But needless to say, if that file ever goes to court or any type of thing like that, that is a complete admission that you made the error and you're responsible for it. So please don't put that in a public forum. Any of you, please don't do that. But let me comment real quickly on the TC. TCs are great. And there are some TCs that just move paperwork around. And if you want our front desk gals to open files for you, they do that. It is next to no charge because it's like $100. They open the file and they upload just your basic documents. They're not going to make phone calls for you. They're not going to write anything for you. We have TCs that you can call and say, hey, write a buyer an addendum for me. This is what I want on it. They'll write it, they'll send it out to your folks and be done. So again, depends on what you want to pay for. And you had a question.
This document checklist doesn't have the date deadline. And I have one that does, so if anybody wants it, I can give it to them. I got it from where did I get it from? I can't remember if I got it from NARS or MLS, but
Well, there is a date checklist.
yeah.
Yeah, this isn't a timeline checklist. This is just a document checklist, because a lot of these things aren't on ARMLS.
Okay, whatever list I have, it has all of this, but
It can't have all of our documents because our documents are separate. So we have documents that are on there. It's not going to have the ABA because there is no ABA on that.
because I put it on there. I took.
Oh,
the
you
list,
added to
yeah,
it.
and I revised it.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, well, you're gonna have to revise that list shortly.
You know,
One of the issues with the document checklist timeline, and yes, it is, I believe it's in ARMLS, that there's a checklist. When you go in, there is a checklist that gives you a timeline. The challenge with it is you have to input those dates, because if the timeline says 10 days for the Binzer response, but it's only 7 days,
right.
you have to modify all those, right? Because there is no set date. It's negotiable date, right? So some of those things are negotiable. And so absolutely those timelines work. And I do recommend you use something like that. There are a lot of ways to set that up. I used to have a letter that went over everything in the contract for actions that my clients used to have that would be sent out to either my buyer or my seller saying, congratulations, here are your timelines for you to be aware of. And I encourage all of you to create those systems for yourself and put those into play. But yes, you can go to a TC, you have access to checklists as well. Any other questions from those of you online? Nope. All right. It's 10:55. I just want to let you know that I had a great training yesterday on all those new forms. I look forward to being able to teach you these new forms as they are coming available. We should be able to see the final drafts or the actual forms on July 5th. They will be dropping to the AAR website with a folder with all of the new forms. I believe there are 17 forms being modified that are coming out for August 1st. A lot of those you will not use. They have to do with commercial or leasing, but they did have to modify documents to address the fact that the MLS will no longer show, even for commercial or for leasing, will not show co-broke compensation. Does not mean it's not being offered. Make sure you understand that, but that it is just not going to be published and visible in the MLS. If you have your own website and you have your own listings, you can have a document in your website if you want that people can download that has any co-brokes that are being offered on your personal listings. I'm still waiting to find out exactly what Realty One Group's going to post with regard to our listings. There should be a way for those to be up there, but I'm not sure exactly how they're doing that. But it is important for you to know that you cannot publish somebody else's co-broke, only those of your own listings. Realty One Group can obviously publish all of Realty One Groups, so that's not a problem. Any last minute questions? It's going to be an exciting summer, folks. Have a great week ahead of you. Tomorrow, we will add a link to the buyer presentation that was done by Rock Title the other day. And so please look for that. And I think that's about it. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
So the new forms, we're gonna